I have to tell you, I feel a little bit like Noah, the day he stepped out of the ark, and hoped that that land was firm here. Unlike, the 40 days of Noah, I mean, when last we were together, it was the second Sunday of Lent. Now it's the 4th of July. I mean, it's almost unfathomable to me that would, over a quarter of the year, we would miss. I could never have thought of that. Necessary? Absolutely. At times, the church and the state can fight each other, but not on this one. I think the closure of everything was a very important step for this whole area of the New York and New Jersey world. Clearly, we had to close things up. So, we're here today. Come to me, all you who are burdened, and I will refresh you. I will give you rest. Come to me, all you who have burdened. Our burdens have had burdens, these last 100 days, from the virus to the economic impact, to the protest marches, when white America learned of maybe more than ever before, they became more cognizant of the burden carried by black America. We're mourning. We're mourning a way of life we used to have. We're mourning the things that we used to be able to do. You pop in to see family and friends, hit a movie, go to a restaurant, you drop in to see a colleague, in his office. Those things don't happen. And clearly, the virus has changed so many things. So in terms of worship, we love and worship always it means being separated, being distanced from one another, where before it was, a loving contact. Once the pandemic stretched from days into months, in Lent we started kind of a Eucharistic fast, and it really turned into a Eucharistic famine. And we got a good look at what the rest of the world often experiences. In the fall, if you remember, Pope Francis had invoked a synod of the Amazon, and he had all the bishops in South America. They don't get communion and Mass to that whole Amazon region in the middle of South America. How to improve that? They don't have that experience. People all around the world have, in persecuted countries where Christians are at the bad end of the stick, they're not allowed to have Masses or communion. We got a full dose of that. And many of you have knocked on the back door and said, could I come in and get communion? We desire that. We pride ourselves here on our community life and our worship, our weekend experience. And it's been very difficult. From my point of view, we're no good without you. You're no good without us. And our worship is always, as the Vatican Council told us, it's full, it's active, it's conscious participation. Well, for the last 16 weeks, it's been virtual, on a two-dimensional computer screen. And for many of us, it'll be that way maybe until they come up with some vaccines. We're reminded over and over again that we are an incarnational people, because of nativity, because God became flesh in Jesus Christ. We're incarnational people. And we tell Jesus' story, and we touch Jesus, in the symbols of bread and wine and oil and water and in words and in touch. And in our expressions and our worship. That's who we are. And at this point, we've been asked to step back from that. But the absence of it in our lives has raised a consciousness for a lot of us. Maybe we hadn't thought of that before. All these incredible issues that the virus has brought to our society and to our community here. Let me tell you a story about somebody might know about the Maiden of Amparo, a 13-year-old girl, beautiful 13-year-old girl, long black hair, slender neck, led a procession from her village in the Andes on a 2-day procession up the mountain She was followed by friends and family and neighbors and the village priest. And it took 2 days to get up to the summit. And the summit, of course, overlooked her village, the summit is a sacred place for her people. And she was nervous, but in a sense honored that she was chosen. And she was outfitted in the alpaca wool from the region. And she got all the way up to the top. And then when they reached it, she knelt down on a ledge, and one of the village priests picked up a cudgel and slammed it onto her head, killing her instantly. She stayed on the top of the Andes frozen and mummified for the better part of 500 years. The National Geographic had sponsored an expedition with scientists and archaeologists who discovered her on top of this mountain range where she had been for 500 years. And they brought her down. She's been in Washington, D.C. at National Geographic's headquarters for a little while. She's now back in Peru at a university in a museum. But can you imagine this type of, the highest tribute that the Incas could think of offering their god was to offer them the sacrifice of one of their children. You wonder how a people could be so cruel as to believe something like that. You wonder how you could even imagine that your God would be appeased by that type of torture and sacrifice. Awful thing. Almost as if you have to appease God. And we hear today the story that I just read, "Come to me, all you who are burdened." All of you who are wrestling with this pandemic and the effects of it. Is there anybody who isn't? Clearly, we can return to our God, and we don't have the heavy yoke of trying to appease him, or being enslaved to him. We've got a God of love and mercy and compassion, a God who most of all desires to be with his people and share life with the people that he calls his own. God bless. Happy to have you guys here.